Hello everyone and welcome back to TowerGate. It is TowerGate day number 935, 935, October the 23rd, 2019. Wednesday. Thank you so much for tuning in. Okay, well it is Wednesday, so I will be having some chicken. I do believe I'll be having chicken, and I of course need to take out the trash. Now, talking about having chicken and taking out trash makes some people a little queasy. That's okay. Keep this in mind. I have chicken, and then later in the evening, I take out the trash. I'm not taking out the trash and gathering up the trash while I'm chewing on a chicken drumstick. It's not happening, okay? Because some people get a little confused. Now that I've cleared that up, let's get into the news of the day. The rotten Reverend Clinton has begun the Draft Hillary campaign. Exactly right on time. Fortunately, for those of you who watch my video, you know for the past 2 or 3 months, I even laid out the timeline. I said somewhere by around I said she will have to take out Biden. I said that will probably be just about taken care of by the late fall, October, November. And I said somewhere around the end of October, she will launch the Draft Hillary campaign, the fake Draft Hillary campaign. And it is now underway. And more. The rotten Reverend Clinton out in Portland for a little Q&A. I'm sure many of you have seen the video clip. So if you watch carefully in this video clip, you will see that this person asking the questions looks at the rotten Reverend, and she's asking who she supports, knowing good and well that the rotten Reverend Clinton isn't going to come out and say who she supports, because she doesn't support any of them people, because she plans on running herself. So the woman knows that she's not going to get a straight answer to the question. But she asked the question anyway. Despite the fact that everyone's asked this question to her, they know she's not going to come out and give an answer. So why was she feeding the rotten Reverend Clinton this question? Because she was told to. So she feeds the rotten Reverend Clinton the question. Who are you going to support? Then the rotten Reverend Clinton responds by saying, well, we have to nominate. Then clears her throat, stops and pauses, clears her throat, gives a couple seconds so that somebody out in the audience can go, you. We have to nominate you. Total setup. Total setup. Because that person, you could hear him, everybody else is quiet. You hear one voice only, come out of the audience. You! Loud and clear. Definitely a plant. That entire thing was a setup. The rotten Reverend Clinton made sure that commentator asked her, who you going to support? And the rotten Reverend Clinton had her plant out in the audience, waiting for the cue, that question. Then Hillary did the pause just in the right place to allow the person to shout out you, because she's asked the question. So who would you support? And the rotten Reverend Clinton looks back, takes her time for a second, and goes, well, we have to nominate you. Total setup. Scripted, 100%. Remember, everything the rotten Reverend Clinton does is scripted. And after the person yells out, you, the rotten Reverend Clinton goes into her classic cackle. Her That's how you know that it was a total setup. That it was staged, totally. Classic rotten Reverend Clinton. I've seen it so many times. So many times. It's so easy to see. I'm sure many of you picked up on it as well. But for those of you who didn't, now you know. And just as I said, what that was they like to use the term on the left, dog whistle. That was the dog whistle. That was the dog whistle to the rest of the media that it's time to go. It's time to begin the Draft Hillary campaign. This is the only way that she can enter the race. She can only enter the race if she can take the position that, oh, I don't want to do this. I don't want to run. I said I wasn't going to run, but I have to run because people are telling me I have to run. I've been drafted. I didn't want to do it, but I've been drafted. And what can you do when you've been drafted? You have no choice. So once she does the dog whistle and the setup, then she goes on and expands on the point. And she goes into about a 5-minute discussion about the election. And she covers some very specific key items, which will help lay the groundwork and help fuel the phony Draft Hillary campaign. She starts talking, first of all, again, about impeachment and Trump and there being a constitutional crisis. And then she says, and more information is coming out. How does she know that? Because she's the one that's behind it. She's orchestrating the coup. She's orchestrating the coup. She has been since the day she lost. And it was planned before that. If she lost, Christopher Steele was getting the evidence together. So it's what he said in his deposition. He was hired to put together the evidence for Hillary Clinton in case she lost the election to challenge it in court. But they couldn't go to court because they didn't have any evidence. It was all a smear campaign. So they did the next best thing. They worked in the special prosecutor. He was supposed to do the job, but he couldn't get it done. Now they've moved on to Ukraine and everything else. Now it's Syria. Now it's this phone call. It doesn't matter what it is. It's the rotten Reverend Clinton's plan. She says Trump might not be the nominee. Trump might not be the nominee. She's got a plan to take out Trump, to clear the way for her, because she always clears the field. She's got to clear the field. And one of the people she had to clear the field of is Biden. Quid pro quo Joe. Because he's the only real alternative to the ultra-left. But what's happened to Quid pro quo Joe? The money has dried up. There's no more money coming in. The big donors have closed their checkbooks. Why? He is their only hope. If you don't get Biden, you're going to get Warren, Hiawatha, or Commie Bernie. And we know that the big donors are having no part of it. Tim Pool did a video this morning where he was talking about an article written by one of the left-wing, I'm not sure if it was the Washington Post, New York Times, or one of those, or if it was a Politico or who it was, but he was commenting on the story. And the story is about, he was talking about, is how secretly in these meetings with the big donors, they're freaked out. They're freaked out because they're terrified of Warren or Bernie. So who is it? And so, again, you have to ask yourself, why are they depriving Biden of the money? They would only deprive Biden of the money if they were holding it off on the sideline for someone else. And it surely isn't Commie Bernie and Hiawatha. It's for someone else. Someone else, and who would have the kind of power to tell the big donors to the Democratic Party to withhold money from Biden. Because that's the only way they're going to force him out of the race. Yeah, the Ukraine stuff is hurting him. He's taking a beating on it. But if you really want to take someone out, you cut off their money. And that's what the rotten Reverend Clinton understands. And you got the big donors of the corporate Democratic Party terrified of Warren, terrified of Bernie, but they're sitting on the sidelines not giving Biden the money because they want to choke him off and cut him off, cut out his funds and force him out. Then who are they left with? The rotten Reverend. Because she's the one that's telling them, hey, just cut off the money to Biden. As soon as he's gone, I've got my Draft Hillary campaign ready to go. It'll be going on for a couple of weeks. We'll build it up. You cut off the money to Biden. And once he's forced to drop out because he can't raise any more money, and I got the Draft Hillary campaign going, I'll throw my hat in. And then that's when all that money that's sitting out on the sidelines will flow into the rotten Reverend Clinton. That's her plan. Now, yesterday, I literally, I'm wondering if the Rotten Reverend watched my video yesterday, because I told you yesterday what their plan was. They know they have no crime, high crime or misdemeanor against Trump to get him impeached. What they're trying to do is they're trying to do what they did to Nixon, which is to get enough Republicans on board to force him to resign. To force him to resign. That's what they did to Nixon. And that's what all this is about. It's a gigantic smear campaign. But what they need is about 20 Republicans. And they've probably got a dozen now. And the Rotten Reverend Clinton goes on to talk about how they got rid of Nixon. In other words, she's signaling to them and telling you, literally telling you, how they plan on getting rid of Trump. The same way they did to Nixon. You come out with a smear campaign. You go at it day after day after day after day, and you begin to apply pressure on Republicans, and then eventually you say, well, it's like 50-60% people want him impeached and removed from office. You go after the weak-kneed Republicans, the anti-Trump Republicans, and the ones who can be bought. Because there are plenty of Republicans, probably at least a dozen, who would not mind taking out Trump. They can be easily bought off. Yeah, they may lose their seat in the Senate, but they won't care because they're going to be getting some advisory board member position, which is going to pay them 7 figures for the rest of their life. They'll be paid off with millions of dollars to stick a knife in Trump's back. And believe me, there's at least a dozen over there in the Senate. Whether or not there's 20, I don't know. But that's exactly what the Rotten Reverend Clinton needs. She laid it out perfectly. Democrats alone cannot take out Trump. Democrats alone cannot take out Trump. They need Republicans. And they have targeted the Republicans that they need. And they'll do whatever it takes to get those Republicans to turn. And believe me, there are Republicans out there who publicly are pretending that they support Trump. They don't. They'll stick a knife in his back in a New York minute. And once it's over, it's over. Situation is getting dangerous. The Rotten Reverend Clinton goes on to say that they are right now targeting Republicans who are not running for re-election. That's the first group that they're going after to get them to support impeachment and removal from office. Ones who are not Republicans, not running for office. Then they'll go to the Never Trumpers next. And then they'll go to the ones that they think they can buy next. The Rotten Reverend Clinton said that they need Republicans to side with House Democrats for impeachment. And then she starts talking about one of the reasons for that would be Syria, pulling the troops out of Syria. Now look, and then what do we have? We have Mitch McConnell and a whole bunch of Senate Republicans signing up to pass a resolution to condemn Trump for pulling the troops out of Syria, led by Twitch McConnell. Then she goes on, the Rotten Reverend Clinton goes on to talk about the fact that, hey, keep in mind, when we look at the Democratic field right now, we have to ask who can win the Electoral College. You know, you can't just win the popular vote in big states. That's what happened to me. I won the popular vote. I won the big states, but you got to win the Electoral College. So now we have to focus on who can win the Electoral College. Well, guess what's going to happen now over the next couple of days? You are going to start seeing stories. That was the Rotten Reverend Clinton's message to the New York Times, to the Washington Post, and all the rest. Now to start writing stories about how Hiawatha and Commie Bernie cannot win the Electoral College. And they can't. They can win some stuff on the West Coast. They can win some stuff on the East Coast. They cannot win the Electoral College. Impossible. And that's exactly what the Rotten Reverend Clinton just telegraphed to the media. So now you can expect in the next day, 2, 3, over the next couple of weeks probably, we'll be seeing quite a few stories coming out from the New York Times, Washington Post, and very many others who will then begin to copy them once they've gotten their marching orders. Now we got to write stories about why Warren and Sanders cannot win the Electoral College. Take them out of the game. Clear the field for the Rotten Reverend. Biden, she's already told the donors to withhold the money from him, strangle him, starve him, suffocate him from lack of money. That will drive him out of the race. The Rotten Reverend Clinton knows it. Then she takes out Warren and Bernie and makes them unelectable by having her allies in the press write stories about how neither of them can come anywhere near winning the Electoral College, and they need to get someone who can. And they're going to be writing stories in the not too distant future about how the rotten Reverend Clinton is the one who can win the Electoral College. Exactly playing out the way I believed it would. The timing and everything. Expect to hear now the draft, the Rotten Reverend Clinton campaign. You're going to be hearing the draft Hillary. It's going to be all over the place, all over Twitter. You're going to start seeing stories written about it. You're going to see stories written about how Bernie and Warren can't win the Electoral College. You're going to see more stories about how donors are terrified of Biden. They don't think he's going to cut it. How they're withholding the money from him. I mean, this story leaks out. Tim Pool's talking about it, how in these meetings where these big donors get together, they're withholding money from Biden because they don't think he can win, and they're terrified of Bernie and Warren. That's the story he's commenting on. And I can't remember in the video if he said, I'm sure he did, I just didn't catch it, about what news source was. But Tim Pool usually works from the New York Times, the Washington Post, Daily Beast, Politico, all the mainstream sites. So you can expect that that's where that came from. But just like I said, everything is happening just exactly the way I thought it would. And let me tell you something. They are dead damn serious about impeachment and removing Trump from office. By hook or by crook, they don't give a damn what you think. They don't give a damn how it looks. It's get rid of Trump at any cost. Any cost. They don't care how big the risk is. And the rotten Reverend Clinton is behind it all. Now, one thing they haven't stopped to consider. What will happen if they actually succeed? This country will split literally into civil war. People are not just going to allow this to happen. This could literally begin a period of civil unrest, civil insurrection like we've never seen before in the history of this country. Look at the map from 2016. Trump won nearly everything in the center of the country. 86% of the counties. Do you think all these people, 63 million people, are just going to sit back and say, oh, well, I guess that's how it goes? I don't think so. And the rotten Reverend Clinton would love it. There's nothing she would love more, because she's behind a lot of this. Nothing she would love more to see this country in flames, launched into complete civil war, civil insurrection. She would love it, because she hates this country. She hates this country and the people who live here because they deprived her of her power. And her position is, well, you didn't elect me president, fuck it. I'm just going to blow the whole damn thing up. I'll turn this country into I'll rip this country apart and punish you all for depriving me of my power. That is why I come on here every day and tell you and talk about the rotten Reverend. Many of you probably think, man, he's obsessed with Hillary. I'm telling you, it's not that I'm obsessed with her. I understand the type of demonic sociopath she is and the potential damage that she can do to this country. She can rip this country apart because she can mobilize, along with her allies, so many people and move so much money to do the mobilization of so many people. She's got the entire corrupt deep state. Hell, she's got a lot of Republicans, so-called. We're in dangerous, dangerous territory right now. The only reason that Trump is not gone at this point, and the only reason he's not been removed from office at this point, is because of how loyal his supporters are and how many of them he has. That's the only thing. But these people don't care. They don't really care how popular he is or how much support he has from his base. They don't even care about, or else they haven't thought about it. Maybe they just think we're all going to sit back and take it, but they're wrong. They're wrong. They're marching down a very dangerous path here. And there are Republicans, believe me, so-called Republicans, who will stick the knife in his back. If they could have a secret vote in the Senate, if they could have a secret vote, they'd impeach him tomorrow. They surely would. I promise you. That's how bad things are. Somebody better wake up, Mr. Barr. You're watching a coup. Here's a question. Is there a coup, active coup going on in the country today? Yes. Many of you know that. Is Attorney General Barr aware of the fact that there is a coup going on in the country and has been for 2.5 years? I'm pretty sure he's aware of that. There's moves he could make. There's things that Lindsey Graham could do. There's things that Republicans who control these Senate committees could do. There's things that McConnell could do. There's things all these could do. They're sitting back letting it happen. They are passive. These Republicans in the Senate are passive participants in the coup. They're letting it happen. Now, Lindsey Graham is running for re-election. And he wants to do two things. Number one, get re-elected. Number two, raise a hell of a lot of money. So that's why he goes on TV and talks about, well, I'm going to get to the bottom of that. Yeah, I'm going to get to the bottom of that. I'm going to get to the bottom of that. He don't get to the bottom of shit. He doesn't get to the bottom of shit. Nothing. Nothing but talk. I'm convinced he's a passive participant in the coup. He doesn't want his buddy McCain exposed either. Speaking of Twitch McConnell is going to sit down with Chuck the Cuck Schumer to discuss impeachment proceedings. He says he cannot dismiss impeachment proceedings. He says he has no idea on how long it will go on. And then he introduces, or he had a press conference saying he's going to introduce a resolution to keep U.S. troops in Syria, and he even sent out a tweet and a very kind of threatening or warning to Trump about this particular topic. A warning, almost as if if you pull them troops out of Syria, don't count on me to have your back in impeachment. In other words, if you don't put the troops back into Syria, I'm going to sign up with the Democrats and go along with the impeachment, is basically what he's saying in his tweet. Twitch McConnell from Kentucky. If you live in Kentucky, pick up the goddamn phone and make a phone call to Twitch. I'm starting to get very angry. Very angry. Profanity alert. Profanity alert. It's coming, believe me. I'm getting ready to blow a fuse in just a moment. Well, it looks like the bug-eyed fool, Adam Schifferbrains, his star witness, showed up yesterday, on Tuesday, and he says that Trump did lay out a quid pro quo. Who are we talking about? Bill Taylor. The same Bill Taylor that met with Schiff's staff members 12 days after the whistleblower filed the complaint. The same Bill Taylor who sent that email, or actually I believe it was actually a phone conversation, is I think actually what it was. He's the one who told Volker, he said, yeah, I think it's crazy to withhold security assistance for help with a political campaign. In which case Volker said, what are you talking about? There's no quid pro quo. It has nothing to do with a political campaign. What are you talking about? Didn't matter. All that was intended was to get that phrase on record, which it is. And now it's being used by Schiff. Same Bill Taylor who met with Schiff's staffers 12 days after the whistleblower filed the complaint. And of course, they know who the whistleblower is. They have known. And now I think we all know. It's this guy, Sierra Mello. And there's now a photo of him, by the way. Keep in mind, Taylor has no first-hand knowledge of anything. Taylor's knowledge of this so-called phone call, of this so-called quid pro quo, based on the Politico story. His entire testimony was based on he read the Politico story. And therefore, he believes it was a quid pro quo. He's never been to a single meeting. He's not even a top-tier player, would know nothing about it, even if they were trying to do something like that. He's just a hack at the State Department and a plant for the bug-eyed fool and part of the coup plot. Do you see how rigged this thing is? Project Veritas. Project Veritas released a video today which shows one of the CNN producers talking about a CNN executive named Steve Brusk, who apparently harasses women and tries to put the moves on a lot of young women over at CNN. Apparently they're saying that he's being protected by higher-ups at CNN. Yeah, well, I guess so. Remember, Zucker when what's his name over there? What's his name? Pretty boy. I can't remember his name. Had the morning show. Matt, forget his name. But when he was doing all his stuff, Zucker was one of the heads of I believe it was what, NBC at the time. He's doing the same thing at CNN. This guy's a lowballer for sure. He's a hack. Shouldn't surprise us. Not even give a damn. Quite honestly. Just talking about Lindsey Graham, boy, he's coming under a lot of fire today. A lot of people calling his office. A lot of people, actually, there's a milk carton out there now with his image on it saying, "Where's Lindsey?" Nobody can find Lindsey. He forgot that he's the chairman of the House Judiciary Committee. Do you realize that if Lindsey wanted to blow up the entire Schiff plot, he could? Very easy. He could say, yeah, you know, Schiff's committee is looking into this telephone call with the Ukraine Prime Minister, and whether there was a quid pro quo. You know, that's a very good thing to do. I think that I'll have my committee in the Senate Judiciary look into that. And then Graham could literally get every single damn witness that Schiff has called, because there are Republicans in there. They could tell Graham who all's been called. He could call the exact same people in public hearings, hold those hearings in the Senate, and all that secret stuff that's happening with Schiff will be blown out of the water because Lindsey Graham will be doing it in public in hearings. He'd blow the entire coup plot up. It would die. It would wither on the vine. It would be over. It wouldn't be a secret hearing anymore in the House. It would be a public hearing in the Senate. And all the players who've come in and said there was no quid pro quo who actually know would be right there on the record. Schiff would be blown up. The coup would be blown up. Pelosi would be blown up. But Graham hasn't lifted a freaking finger. And he knows this. He knows it. We had a story today in the Gateway Pundit regarding the Clinton Foundation in Australia. So it appears that the Clinton Foundation received 130 million taxpayer dollars from Australians during a period of about 7-8 years. And right after the election of 2016 was over, as soon as the election 2016 was over, and the Right Reverend Clinton, the demonic buzzard, once she lost, immediately after that, the directors of this group that organized the money fled the country. And they fled the country from their headquarters, which was in Melbourne, Australia. They show a picture of this headquarters for this group that got the 130 million from the Right Reverend, that donated this 130 million to the Right Reverend Clinton's foundation. It's basically a shack on a dirt road just outside of Melbourne. That was the headquarters for this group that got the 130 million that went supposedly to the Clinton Foundation. Now, my guess is that these so-called heads of this group that got the money probably pocketed a hell of a lot of it, and the rest of it went into the Right Reverend Clinton's pocket. And then these guys vanish. They leave the country. $130 million. And the Australian people, taxpayers, didn't get a single damn thing for it. Nothing. Chuck Grassley. Chuck Grassley today saying that he thinks that the deep state is going to bury the Spygate report. What's he talking about? The Horowitz report. Huckleberry Horowitz's report. You remember that? It was supposed to come out in March, and then June, and then September, and then October. Where is it? Grassley says they're trying to bury it. He says it probably will never come out. Would be real convenient right now, wouldn't it? Because what it would show is that they lied to the FISA court, made up a lot of stuff, committed lots of crimes. It would basically expose that they in fact did illegally spy on the Trump campaign. It would also create everything that Barr and Durham need to now go public and call this a real investigation, to start having grand juries, to start calling people in, and to start arresting people, charging people, SWAT raiding people. But where is it? Where is the Horowitz report? Crickets. I know. It'll come out after the coup. After the coup and Trump's been removed from office, then we'll get it. Oh, and we'll probably even get Durham's report by then too. Well, at least we have some good news. At least we have some good news for the day. A judge has ruled that a salon and those salon workers, regarding this case, the salon workers do not have to wax that transgender's balls. If you remember, there was a transgender, a hideous-looking creature, who tried to force a salon to wax its balls, and they refused. So the transgender took it to court. And now the judge has ruled that the salon workers do not have to wax the transgender's balls. Well, at least we had some kind of a win today. Do the Democrats and the deep state know what kind of a deal that they're cooking up? Have they thought about the consequences of their actions? Is Trump such a threat to the deep state that they would let this country be ripped apart and thrown into probably civil war? How big of a threat is Trump to the deep state? Obviously, very big. Probably a lot more than we can even know. We're sitting here watching a slow-motion train wreck. We know what the game is. We know what the end game is. We know how to stop it. But we can't do it. I'm not the Senate Judiciary Committee chair. I'm not the Attorney General. Neither are you. We just have to sit back and watch it. But we don't have to take it. Not lying down. So the Rotten Reverend Clinton has given the word for the Draft Hillary campaign. She successfully has convinced the big donors to withhold the money from Biden, and they are following her direction. It's just a matter of time. And she's saying that Trump may not even be the nominee. All they have to do is convince about 20 Republicans to vote for impeachment. Everything's riding on about 20 rhinos in the Senate. Trust them? These people are going to have hell to pay. Hell to pay. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll be back tomorrow with more TowerGate. You guys have a good night. See you. Bye.